It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Good morning. It is Wednesday, July the 3rd, which means tomorrow is July the 4th, which means look out. We're all going to lose our minds. 4th of July weekend, a nice long 4th of July weekend for most Americans out there. If, we get the day off Thursday, what are we going to do on Friday? Who you kidding? One thing we're going to be doing across this great land of ours is hitting the road. Here are the top 5 at 6, the top things you need to know to get your day off on the right foot. AAA is expecting record-setting travel. Woo! 71 million people will make a trip of 50 miles or more. 71 million. I'm one of those 71 million. Zepp, are you going to travel at least 50 miles this weekend?
Yes, sir.
Tony?
Yes, I am. Going up north.
Very nice. Ryder?
Headed to Spooner, Wisconsin.
Look at us, man. 4 for 4. Oh, we'll be out there putting the miles on. Best time to hit the road, of course, is before 10 a.m. I read these things. It says, make sure you have jumper cables, a first aid kit, snacks, and water. I don't think I have any of that. Come on.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. Come on.
It's called AAA, baby.
Be prepared for weather, however. There are a lot of storms still coming in various parts of the country. One good piece of news, the lowest gas prices since 2021 right now. Average price of gasoline, $3.49 per gallon nationwide.
That's the best. Giving it away.
That's the best in 3 years.
Crepes.
Yeah, I remember my parents freaking out when it hit 50 cents. 50 cents a gallon? What the hell is the world coming to? I was in my driving career, it was under $1. I remember paying less than $1 for a gallon of gas back in the early 80s. On occasion, go figure. Number 4 on your top 5. A Anoka County Sheriff's Deputy has been recognized as the Minnesota Police and Peace Officer Association's Officer of the Year. Tanner Shipman, well done, brother.
Yeah.
My man was on his way out to last year's Sturgis rally. He was at a gas station at I-90 and Junction Avenue, and he spotted a South Dakota state trooper who was being shot at under attack. The trooper was lying flat. He had nowhere else to hide from the gunfire. Shipman immediately jumped into the situation, even though he himself was unarmed. A family member came up with a gun. He and the state trooper fended the dude off. They ultimately apprehended him. It was a very, very difficult, in the moment, no time to think, just react situation. And Tanner Shipman is your Officer of the Year. Seriously, well done, dude. That's a good guy doing the good thing right there.
Hell yeah.
Citizens are behind you all the way, officer.
All the way, officer.
Damn straight.
It's like OK Corral stuff.
That really is. 42 shots fired in all. The only guy hit was the bad guy, so that's a good result. Yesterday, the Twins beat the Detroit Tigers 5-3. This series continues tonight at Target Field. Manny Margot and Carlos Correa both went deep. The Twins have a club record home run streak going at 20 games. Mm-hmm. Very, very nice. Great news. Royce Lewis hit a 2-run double before bad news, departing with tightness in his left groin muscle. I will just say this again, probably once a month. I think it's important that we do our best to get someone to donate their legs to Royce Lewis. The man needs a leg transplant.
Yeah. Right.
Jeez. Number 2 on our top 5 at 6. Heart has postponed the rest of their tour dates for this year. Of course, Ann and Nancy Wilson back on stage together for the first time in almost a decade. Ann Wilson apparently has been diagnosed with cancer. Not a whole lot of details. In a statement, she said, I recently underwent an operation to remove something that, as it turns out, was cancerous. Operation was successful. I'm feeling great. Doctors are now advising me to go under a course of preventative chemotherapy, taking the rest of the year off. And then Ann followed it up with, respectfully, this is the last public statement I'd like to make on the matter. Good. Go away, get rest, get better, and hit the road next year. Ann Wilson, our thoughts are with you. I absolutely adore Ann Wilson. She's as good as it gets.
Straight on.
Finally, number 1 on the list, the Lake Minnetonka fireworks are happening tonight, Wednesday, July 3rd, as opposed to tomorrow when they were scheduled, July 4th. There are storms in the forecast for the 4th of July. And after careful consideration, the decision was made. You know what? Tonight about 9:50, we're going to set those bad boys off. So if you're planning to get to the Lake Minnetonka fireworks, that's happening tonight, not tomorrow night. There are several other fireworks shows in the area that are apparently moving as well. Just make sure you know where you're going before you go there, and good luck getting and seeing the fireworks you're looking for. However, the firecracker race and kids parade will still be held as previously scheduled tomorrow. So, Excelsior Lake Minnetonka tonight, fireworks. Boom, go have a good time.
Also, Canterbury Park and Anoka, but like you said, probably others. Check it out.
I would imagine that is the case. Hey, speaking of fireworks, how about, let's discuss something. If I were to name an item or two, I'm curious if you would be able to tell me whether it were a firework, a sex toy, or a snack. Yeah, that's right. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Wednesday, July the 3rd. Right now, it is time to head west, young man, for the Mike Evans Hollywood Report.
Hey, good morning, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Good morning to everybody. Are you ready for the 4th of July? Off Thursday, off Friday? I can't wait. So, if you're planning on going to the movies this long weekend, may I first suggest you see Sound of Hope, story of Possum Trot. This is one of the best movies of the year, a true story about underprivileged and abused children and a foster care system that is badly broken. A true story. And it's not just the story. Great directing and great acting throughout. Sound of Hope, story of Possum Trot. One of my rare 5 stars. Hey, kids, if you're listening, talk your parents into taking you to see Despicable Me 4. Despicable Me 4 opens everywhere, 4 stars, great movie for the kids. And still playing, and we're seeing A Quiet Place, day 1. And if you're one of those folks that likes a great story, but you don't mind a little slow, detailed, long movie in the way of telling that story, Kevin Costner's film, Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1, is still playing, all 3 hours and 10 minutes of it. I also want to do something a little different. I want to recommend a movie that is going to be streaming starting tomorrow. It's very goofy, but it's very funny. Debuting tomorrow on Prime, Amazon, Space Cadet. So here's the story. When a little girl living in Florida sees a Cape Canaveral launch with a rocket, missile, and astronauts, she dreams of becoming an astronaut. But when she graduates from high school, a lot of things have changed. She has to become a bartender. Her life is going nowhere. And then she decides to take a big step and try to make her childhood dream come true. So she gets a astronaut application, makes out the application while declaring that she's a doctor and a top graduate of MIT and a Nobel Prize winner runner-up and a lot more. And she's accepted into the astronaut training program with hilarious results. Emma Roberts stars. I'm giving this movie 3 stars. It's corny, funny, goofy, but I liked it. Again, Space Cadet. It is streaming starting tomorrow on Prime Amazon. Great news. A couple of months ago, we were hearing that 94-year-old Clint Eastwood was not doing well health-wise. However, just 10 days ago, 94-year-old Clint Eastwood walked his 27-year-old daughter down the aisle, feeling much better. Good for Clint Eastwood. And a personal comment, if you will allow me. Everybody hearing me right now should remember, although there's a lot of problems, we are still living in the greatest country in the history of the world. And I want to wish you all a very happy 4th of July. Hey, talk to you Monday. Mike Evans. See ya.
There's your Mike Evans Hollywood Report. Hey, the Stillwater riverboats are bringing us out to sea. KQ's Rock the Boat 80s. Friday, July 26th, Rock the Boat 80s cruise, live music from Rough House Rocks, drinks with the KQ crew and free food. Tickets are on sale right now at 92KQRS, sponsored by Hoffman Weber Construction. We're going to have a good time. You're going to have a good time if you pick up tickets and join us. Of course, at 7:50 this morning, you may play a game. You might win tickets to a concert. You might win tickets to that cruise. You might win tickets to who knows what. You got to hang around and wait to see. But about an hour from now, we'll be soliciting calls for a game because that's how we like to roll around here. That's how cool we are. Now, let's look back. All right, here we go. July 3rd, 1939, at the World's Fair, a minor league baseball player named Joe Sprints, who was on the San Francisco Seals, attempted to do one of the craziest things anybody had ever done at a ballpark. Baseballs were thrown from the inside of a blimp down to the ground. Joe Sprints was going to catch them. The blimp was 800 feet high. The first 4 balls just flew nowhere close to him. Number 5 was coming right at him at about 130 miles per hour. Joe Sprints got in position, readied himself, and caught the ball smack in his glove. And then the glove went right into his face. Broke his nose, fractured his jaw, knocked 5 of his teeth out, and knocked him unconscious.
But he
was in the hospital for 2 months. The ball never had a chance. It fell out of his glove as he collapsed to the ground.
Dang it.
Worthless.
What a failure.
Did not have the world record. Later, his only quote I could find was, "My lips look like hamburger."
That was probably a very entertaining way to start. I mean, it's a minor league game, right?
Yeah, and by the way, you don't think I would watch that video over and over and over if it existed? That'd be amazing.
What about that Babe Ruth once caught a ball that was dropped from a plane flying 100 miles an hour at an altitude of 250 feet? Any truth to that? Do you know?
No, what I heard was that he actually caught it in his mouth and swallowed it whole.
Nice.
Babe was different than all of us. On this day in 2001, NBA approved the movement of the Vancouver Grizzlies to Memphis, Tennessee. The Memphis Grizzlies were then born. Now, Memphis is known for a lot of things. I mean, Elvis, Graceland, Barbecue, the Blues, Stax Records, Beale Street. They got those ducks at the Peabody Hotel. Not so much grizzly bears. But, hey, whatever. The Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, think about it sometime. Almost as bad as the Utah Jazz as far as names go.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Wednesday, July the 3rd. Good morning. At 7:50 today, we will be playing a game, giving away Stray Cats tickets. The game, Patriotic or Idiotic. That is the game for today. Stay tuned. We'll let you know when you want to get involved in that. Also, along the way today, we'll be talking about the best background songs for fireworks. You can share your thoughts with us on the KQ Talk and Text line at 651-989-ROCK if you want. You can also go to the Facebook page, KQRS Facebook page. What's the best background song for a fireworks display? A lot of Sousa and a lot of Hendrix National Anthem going on the Facebook page so far.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's the one time I do, like you talked about Sousa and the horns and the big band stuff, the brass. Yeah. It's got to be Van Morrison or fireworks. Those are the 2 times I can stomach horns.
How about Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass?
Never. That makes me angry that you just said that. No. No, I'm not.
Perfect.
It's just not a big horn guy, but, a horn section here.
Come on, man.
Sometimes it works out. No. Fireworks.
A lot of Herb Alpert albums in the Gorman household growing up as a kid.
Sorry to hear that.
There was the Lonely Fly. What was that song?
Lonely Bull.
The Lonely Bull. Whipped Cream and Other Delights, an album cover that I and many other young lads have spent way too much time just staring at it. Huh. Something about this catches my eye. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, one of those. I'd listen to that album, actually, just looking for answers to all the questions going through my head. But, hey, anyway, Zep, we got it. Van Morrison horns, acceptable. Sousa horns during fireworks shows, acceptable. Otherwise, not so much.
Not so much.
Okay, good to know. We're also going to Later in the show at about 8:50, Steve Wynn is calling in. Steve Wynn's a longtime buddy of mine, the founder, the singer, the leader of a great band called the Dream Syndicate from the Los Angeles Paisley underground scene of the 80s, and a guy who's been around for years. He's got a band called the Baseball Project. Steve Wynn, 2 members of REM, and a couple other great folks. Linda Pittman, a local drummer from back in the day, all playing at the Turf Club this Saturday night. Baseball Project is a band of like indie rock superstars who completely and solely write and perform songs about baseball. I'm not making that up. It is a band that writes songs about baseball, and it's actually awesome. So we're talking to Steve Wynn at 8:50. I've never been to Hawaii. I've spent a few hours at the Honolulu airport on a layover, so that doesn't count. Zepp, Hawaii, yes or no?
Love it.
Been there.
Yes, been there. And in fact, the story we're doing, I've traveled the very steps that this couple has driven the road to Hana. Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah. When you're on the island of Maui, of course, there's a lot of things to do. One of the more famous things to do is the road to Hana. And it skirts the circumference of the island for most of the island. About 3/4 of the island is this road to Hana. And you get yourself a Jeep. And it's a bit of a perilous road. There are many sections of this road that only one vehicle, although it goes in both directions, only one vehicle can pass.
Hey, man, the locals will use the same road, and if they come up behind you, just pull off to the side, let them pass, because they're not looking at scenery. They're trying to get somewhere. They get the tips like anybody does. They're going about their business. They drive by a driveway, and a truck pulls out as they pass.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
I'm going to break every rule in radio. It might be my last day on the show, so let me indulge myself here. I started listening to this news story of this couple who tell this story in a very succinct, almost edited way. So I'm going to give them some runway here. And listen, I got about 4 minutes in, and I didn't even want to jump back on the show. I'm like, what happens next? I would like to just jump in and listen to this couple right where you left off, that they're told as they're driving this road that, and we were told as well, locals aren't out sightseeing, and they can't get around you. They don't want to spend all day on the road to Hana. They want to get to wherever they're going. So be polite, pull over, and let them go by, which we did several times. And that's where this couple jumps in. It lasts for a little bit, but interrupt it whenever you'd like, whenever you find this not compelling or interesting anymore, and put yourself in this just average couple, could be from Minnesota, out there driving the road to Hana in paradise.
Back roads, so the twists, turns, and gravel did not bother them.
And we were told that the locals there will use the same road. And if they come up behind you, just pull off to the side and let them pass, because they're going to be not looking at the scenery the way that you will.
So when a truck pulled out of a driveway just after they passed, they were ready to be courteous visitors.
I pulled off kind of on the side of the road. I waved him on. I even gave him a wave, like, hey, go ahead. No worries here. And he drove off.
Minutes later, they come around a blind curve, and a truck is now coming back toward them, then stopping in a pinch point on a road only wide enough for one vehicle.
He jumps out and comes right at us with the gun and stops us in the middle of the street.
He had a mask like this, like a scarf. He had a hood, a sweatshirt on with all black, everything he was wearing. Leave all valuables, leave the keys.
Empty your pockets,
leave everything in the car and start walking that way now.
They did what he told them to, phones left behind as commanded, and set off on foot back toward Hana, hearts pounding. They hear a car start behind them.
And he's now coming towards us.
Now he's coming towards us. So we very, very quickly went from a fast walk to a sprint up this gulch.
And now a choice. Stay on the road they're being chased on, head toward the water, or head uphill, that hill being Haleakala. They hop a guardrail and hide behind boulders in the nick of time.
He's yelling for us to show ourselves.
Yeah, I'll find you.
I'll find you.
And at some point he counts down from, I don't know if it was 10, and at the end of it, he shot the gun off. And so
at that point, we knew it was loaded. We knew he meant business.
They thought the end had come.
I had mentally and emotionally came to the conclusion that we were going to die in some way, shape, or form, that we were going to be shot by this guy.
If he saw us, if he found us, we were going to die.
As dusk turned to dark, they'd dart when they could, up and hide again, up and hide again. They can see from afar a white multi-passenger van with a taxi sign approach and think, could this be an option for help? Turns out that van was there to help someone else.
They rendezvoused. They came up with some type of they had some type of interaction, this vehicle and our rental car. And we knew at that point that this guy was in on finding us
now they
as
were
well.
Both driving up and down the road slowly.
All right, hang on one sec.
Dodging, darting, running in a crouch up.
All right, so, I'm right there with you, Zep. I'm like, wait a minute.
That's exactly where I had to pause it to jump back on the show.
So they are, this sounds like a movie scene, because in every movie, when you think the savior has shown up, it turns out to be another bad guy. There's always that moment where you're like, oh my God, there's that relief of surely this is the person we're waiting for. And then that person turns out to be there to help the assailant, if you will, the guy searching for them.
A perfect getaway.
I cannot imagine jumping off the road, running into a gulch. Like, they're just in, like, casual clothes. They're not looking for a mountain hike.
Nope.
And a dude is chasing them and firing a gun, trying to get them to come out of their hiding spot. Yeah, I would be... I'm a little tense, and I'm sitting in a radio studio in air-conditioned comfort right now.
Yeah, there's a movie, Perfect Getaway. Timothy Oliphant was in it. Is it Steve Zahn?
That makes sense.
Mila Jovovich, and they're in Hawaii. And they get hunted, and that's exactly what started happening to this couple. I don't know where it goes from here, to be completely honest. That's almost exactly where I paused it, and we jumped back onto the show.
You know what it is? Well, I can tell you how they got out. They just kept climbing higher and higher up this hill, which is a huge hill. It's like a mountainside of a mountain. And they went overnight. Throughout the entire night, they stayed out there without they didn't have their phones. They had no source of light. At one point, they did find a waterfall, and they hoped it was good because they were thirsty, and they drank from it. At daybreak, there were tour helicopters circling, but they couldn't get their attention. They saw people on horseback riding along with dogs, but weren't sure if they were there looking for them or if they were more hunters or if they were just random people. But they did not try to contact the people on horseback. And then once over a ridge line, they saw a building with people. It was park rangers. Over 24 hours after it began, they were they were rescued by the park rangers and taken care of.
Now I don't have to watch the rest of it.
24 hours. And so, they're trying to figure out who could have done this. The police are like, we have no idea. They have they had a description of the truck, and then there was one suspect they thought maybe could do this. There is this guy who's kind of a bad deal. And then, guess what? A dude named Christopher Helmer was caught in their rental car using their credit cards all over Maui the next couple of days. Oops. Yeah, when you chase people away from their car and then you take their rental car and then you use their credit cards, you're probably going to get found.
So, yeah, they were hunted. Crazy.
So dude has been arrested. He is guilty. They are, we'll see what happens with him. There are other cases across the island where they're realizing this is probably the same guy. 24 hours being literally hunted by several people, one of whom had already fired a gun at them. That's not my kind of vacation right there. I'm trying to think of the worst thing that ever happened on vacation. Rosemary got bit by a spider once. That was kind of scary.
Definitely not kidding. Yeah.
Went to the clinic, and the guy said, good thing you came. If you'd waited a few days, that could have really been damaging, but here's some medicine. It'll be fine. That's the worst thing that ever happened on a vacation. I've certainly never been chased at gunpoint by a crazy person.
Well, you're on a good run.
I'm feeling that way, and I'm still feeling pretty good about this whole never been to Hawaii thing.
Yeah.
Just saying, this is not the boon for Hawaii tourism the state's hoping for.
No, I want to go back now and go on the road to Hana for this. I'm prepared for this. I've been thinking about being hunted my entire life. Nobody's taken me up on it, but if I could go back somewhere and be hunted, not by Jesse Ventura. I know he hunted man. But, I think it could be kind of fun.
Zep's going to get the rental car on the road to Hana. People are like, dude, what are you doing with all those machetes? Nothing. Don't worry about it.
No, machetes. I'm going to have pipe bombs, the whole thing. Yeah.
Is that a blow dart? Yes. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
I'll Come prepared.
Trying to keep it quiet. That's pretty great. Anyway, that's, I would imagine that A24 Studios, they do all those horror films and stuff. They're looking at these people right now putting that script together.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that is beyond harrowing. It's kind of got me freaked out. What can I tell you? Hey, listen, we've all heard that life imitates art, or art, in fact, imitates life, or some version of that. Either way, if you, like me, think that the movie Airplane is the perfect representation of fine art, then you're going to dig this next story. A Delta flight, airplane, art. Just keep those key terms in mind. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS. Stop me! The KQ Morning Show is back, and we always want to hear from you. Call or text 651-989-ROCK. 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Wednesday, July the 3rd. Good morning. I remember the movie Airplane. I remember the day it was released because, oddly enough, it was in my hometown, in a very small town. There it was in the theater that Friday night. My brother and I saw a commercial on TV that afternoon, the trailer, and we were like, that looks kind of funny. And then opened the newspaper, and lo and behold, it was there at the Martin Twin at the Pennyroyal Mall, and we were like, let's go see it.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Oh, every piece of that, every line, every scene, every moment, I was on the floor. I probably saw Airplane 3 times in the theater on its initial run, maybe 4. I mean, I just kept going back with other friends. I'd be like, man, you gotta see this. You gotta see this movie. And of course, the whole thing with Airplane, one of the subplots is bad food on the plane. If you remember, Leslie Nielsen, the doctor, comes into the cockpit. He's, what's going on? And the flight attendant's briefing him on the situation. I believe she says, we had a choice, chicken or fish. And he says, that's right, I had the lasagna. But, that's neither here nor there. But it's a hilarious situation. Not so hilarious when it happens in reality. And that's exactly what did happen. A Delta flight left Detroit, Michigan for Amsterdam. That's in the Netherlands. That's a long overnight flight. And a few hours into the flight, they're serving the in-flight meal service. And all of a sudden, the pilot calls down to ground control and says, we need an emergency landing. We got some sick patients. We have some sick passengers. Apparently, we serve some spoiled food on the plane. Ouch.
I didn't know that was food. I just thought it was, plastic with salt on it.
Didn't know it was possible to spoil a product. Right. Exactly. Delta Flight 136 landed at JFK in New York City early this morning. It should have landed in Amsterdam, but no, it was flying. And shortly before they bounced out over the Atlantic Ocean, they realized, hey, we got a problem. We have been serving bad food to the passengers. They landed at JFK about 4 a.m. this morning. Medical personnel met the plane. No word yet on how many passengers or crew members actually fell ill. So we're still awaiting details. But of all the reasons, I'll put it this way, of all the reasons that I'm going to be on a flight and they're going to make an emergency landing, I'll take this one over mechanical difficulties. I'll take this one over the pilot is passed out. I mean, there's a lot of things.
Some lunatic ranting and raving.
Thank you.
Yeah, be like, can we subdue them and go to where we're going? Why do we always have to land or go back?
I hope everybody's okay. Obviously, I mean, I've been on planes where I didn't feel good. I don't think it was because of anything someone gave me on my in-flight meal. It's usually self-sabotage in my case. But that's got to be pretty brutal. I'm sure stories will be coming out soon. And for the record, that, like I said, I can deal with that a lot better than another flight had an emergency landing a couple days ago. A flight across the Atlantic going the other way from Europe to South America, Madrid, Spain, going to Uruguay, was hit by very strong turbulence. So much so that it had to make an emergency landing in Brazil. This was apparently really bad. 20 minutes of mild turbulence bouncing the plane around before it suddenly dropped about 1,000 feet at 600 miles per hour. And a whole lot of passengers had taken their seatbelts off, as people do. That drop was so intense, one passenger ended up in the luggage bin above his seat. That's how in the bin. True story.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. 30 people were injured when they landed in Brazil. 30 people taken to hospitals to be checked out.
Damn.
That is a brutal situation. The lesson, as always, is, man, keep that seatbelt on. I mean, there's times when I want to take it off and I want to get comfortable, but good Lord, it seems like every week there's one of these crazy turbulent flights that we're reading about.
I mean, the airline seatbelt doesn't really, it's not restrictive, doesn't have that shoulder thing that locks if you want to lean forward or anything like that. So, yeah, you kind of buckle it and forget about it. And as far as turbulence goes, I've never been in anything too serious in a commercial airliner anyway. Some small planes, we've had some pretty good drops. But I always say the same thing when the turbulence starts and people get a little nervous and you can see the white knuckles as people grab the arm wrestle a bit. I'm like, relax, just a little turbulence, enjoy that. And then there's that one jolt where I go and I pucker.
Yeah, right, sure.
And I'm right there with everyone else.
The worst turbulence I've ever experienced was I was the calmest I ever could have been on a flight at the same time, because it was the flight I took out of Los Angeles, a red eye following the Northridge earthquake the night before. I spent a day in L.A. after a big boomer of an earthquake with constant aftershocks, just losing my mind every time, really freaked out by it. And so then I got a plane. I jumped on a red eye from L.A. to Atlanta, and we're over the middle of the country and just getting rocked. It was January. It was a big storm, and the pilot said, we're going to hit some really heavy turbulence. And people on the plane were actually like yelling, like freaking out. And I was thinking, we're at 30,000 feet. This is supposed to be turbulent. What about when the ground is moving? I was like relieved. I was like, after my last 24 hours, I don't care what this plane does. At least the earth isn't shaking under my feet anymore. So, I mean, there is one silver lining if you ever find yourself in an earthquake. Just get on a plane as soon as you can.
All right.
That's all I'm saying. But this is weird because on this flight, there were 20 minutes of turbulence leading up to the big drop. Once you're past like 2 or 3 minutes of turbulence, I'm amazed people still had their seatbelts off. And then other witnesses said they watched passengers thrown into the ceiling. Like the 30 people that were hurt, most of them went from their seat right into the ceiling of the plane. That's how quick the drop happened.
Well, like you said, we can chuckle because no one was seriously hurt, but you end up in the overhead bin. That's some turbulence.
Yeah, one guy literally finds himself in the bin. I mean, that's you couldn't try. I guarantee you they could try to simulate that again, and 99 of 100 times he's not gonna end up in that thing.
I'm sure there was some inappropriate touching. I've been on a train where there was, you wouldn't call it turbulence, right? It's not turbulent, but the train is just a really rough Amtrak, and we're just getting tossed all over going out to Montana one winter, and I ended up in the lady's lap next to me a couple of times. I'm like, I'm really embarrassed, but
what a shame.
Yeah, I was touching all sorts of things trying to get off of her.
Well, it's important.
Awkward.
It's important to get off as soon as you can.
I
wait, hold on.
Straight
what?
to the bathroom and got off.
Hold on. What? A lot of us who we already talked about this on the show. All four of us will be on the road this weekend for the holiday weekend, and all four of us, like 77 other million Americans, will be driving over 50 miles. Check this out: 75% of people in a poll said they do, in fact, argue in the car. Oh, yeah. We argue on the road, largely because of backseat driving is a real killer. It just winds people up. I'm not a backseat driver just because I never sit in the back seat, but I'm a passenger seat driver, and I'm terrible about it. And I try really hard not to. But my wife and my kids are so attuned to my body language when I'm not driving, and they are. I think I'm being completely like, I think I'm being like a statue, and they'll be like, I can see your elbow twitching. I can see you want to say something, but you won't. And I'm like, no, it's fine. You're a good driver. But I clearly have a terrible terrible, I'm calm, it's all good act.
Yeah, I wonder if you do this because I used to road trip with someone that did this all the time, and you could see their legs straightening out as they hit their...
Yeah, hit the brake.
Their imaginary brake on their side of the car. I'm like, you all right over there? You seem a little tense. No, you're doing fine. And it just drove me crazy. I'm like, just relax. Put your feet up on the dash or something. Oh, don't do that. We learned that you can't put your feet up on the dash in case of an accident.
My mom, that's right. It's exactly right. My mom and my sister were in a car crash when I was a kid. They were in Oklahoma. My sister was out doing like a summer stock theater program. So my mom was driving her out there. And my sister was driving, and the car in front of them slammed on the brakes, and my sister slammed on the brakes and rear-ended the car. And my mom in the passenger seat, she shoved her feet into the floorboards so hard, she broke one of her ankles.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like the shoe she was wearing, it was a weird angle, and her ankle went over, and she tore up all the ligaments. She didn't break a bone. She tore the ligaments around her ankle, braking on a brake that wasn't there. Yeah. So, that's but wow, I haven't thought about that since it happened. But arguing in the car, I tend to steer away from arguing in the car only because you can't walk out of the room. You can't just go, hang on, I just got to get away from you for a minute. When you're in the car, you're in the car. There's nowhere to go. But backseat driving brings that up. Frustration over being stuck in traffic leads to arguments in the car. I think we all get on the same side. I think having a common enemy is good for the Gormans in the car.
Yeah.
Stuck in traffic or someone cuts you off, you're bitching about another driver, and then we all pile on like, yeah, that guy. Like, I saw Jay Moore once said, getting along, it's not about liking the same things, it's about hating the same things. And if you have a common enemy, and the other driver is being that common enemy, I mean, people just cruising in the left lane on the highway, that'll rally the Gormans right out of a stupor.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just best to go to your own corners. I'll go to your little happy place. Pretend like you're on a plane and you don't know each other. Just sit there in your own little world.
Yeah.
I only started thinking about that because Ryder and I were talking about this story off air, and she said that Stephen... Go ahead, Ryder.
My husband thinks that we should chat the entire time we're on a road trip, and I feel like this is time for me to be zen and like catch up on my reading and maybe taking a podcast or something like that. And he's like, "No, dude, we need to talk the entire time, the whole 6 hours." I'm like, "Well, I can't come up with 6 hours worth of material, man."
Material.
There she is sitting there with her book in her hand.
Yeah,
just read the book out loud.
Yeah.
Well, he's never interested in anything I'm reading. No, he wants to talk about his stuff. So yeah. Yeah, we do bicker in the car quite a bit. So I'm looking forward to being in Spooner, but not looking forward to driving to Spooner.
That's a form of chatting along the way, bickering.
Sure.
That's all my parents do anymore. It's just one long bicker.
Yeah, you're bickering, and in between you read signs that you think are funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's it. You're just looking for anything you can grab onto. Running late because someone took too long to get ready. Also big on an argument starter. That'll happen.
Oh, yeah.
That'll happen. And by the way, I'm really good. If I know ahead of time, like I have to be somewhere at a certain time, I will always be there ahead of time. But my kids, when they were before they were driving, they go, "Dad, I got to go to Eli's." I'd say, "Okay, when?" In a minute. And I'd say, okay. And so if you say in a minute, to me, that's 60 seconds or maybe 2 minutes. And he'd come down 10 minutes later. And by then I've started, the dishes or something. And he's like, "We got to go. I'm late." And I always say, "Well, you haven't told me what time you're supposed to be there, so I don't know what late means." And we would just go on and on. And my kids had this thing, consequently, where they're convinced I'm always late. And then one day they're like, when it's your thing, we're on time. But when it's for us, we're always late. And then finally, like they were literally like in college. And all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, all I have to do is give you a specific time." I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been saying for 15 years.
Light bulb went off. Finally.
Just say 4:00. Don't say this afternoon. Just give me a time. But a lot of bitching about that stuff back in the day with the kids.
For sure.
Disagreeing about speed? Nah, don't have a problem. Just get there as fast as you possibly can. Just as fast as you can get that car to go safely. That's the speed. No arguing there.
Yeah, I used to, like I said, road trip with someone that would like latch onto the bumper in front of them at like 70 miles an hour. I am not probably I'm not an old man behind the wheel yet.
Yeah.
But they just then they'd be right up on the wheel, like Gordon, in a NASCAR race, taking them in the turn.
Sure.
I'm like, why don't you just bump them? Just give them a little bump.
Trade
give them a
paint.
little rub. Throw the pit maneuver on them while you're at it.
Kids fighting with each other. Tony, you've got the perfect age for two boys on a long road trip who might just lose their minds and start smacking each other. Any problems like that?
Yeah, they have like insult fights sometimes.
Sure.
And they're actually pretty good. They like to, you're right, you go by funny signs, you see things outside the car and comment on it. We like to play a lot of games, too. We try and do that when we're doing the car trips. Competitive. It gets pretty competitive, though.
Right. What are the game? What's a game? What's a good Lee family game?
Oh, we make up weird ones. There's 20 questions, or you name things alphabetically.
Right.
That you can think of lists, and then there's controversy.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Are they allowed to do punch buggy or not anymore? Is that an old game?
What's punch buggy? Is that
it's when you see like a Volkswagen Beetle and then you hit your sibling.
We called that slug bug.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, slug bug.
Slug bug. We had a different name, which I can't even remember. But yeah, what was that? Imagine being the guy who designed the car that led people all around the planet to punch each other upon sight.
Yeah, hopefully didn't take it personally.
What's your claim to fame? The children punch each other when they see what I invented.
That's probably a big European thing, yeah.
Actually be pretty great.
Right. Bill Hicks on traveling road trips in the car.
That was stressful. They weren't fun. I have seen the sun take turns with our car before to beam through my window. I'm in the back seat like an ant under a magnifying glass.
No.
Not 2:05, but 4 a.m. was the Don Gorman. We're leaving at 4. It was just a given. 4. We're up at 3:30. That car is pulling out of the carport at 4:01.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, and we would go 3 places from Kentucky, either Michigan, Maryland, or South Carolina to see family. And the Detroit trip was the shortest. That was only like 8 or 9 hours, but it was still 4 o'clock because you leave at 4. We'll be there for lunch. Like, okay, great. Like. We can get lunch on the way too, and the other drives were longer, and therefore, you had to hit the road early. My dad had the. And by the way, I'm the same way now. Like, I've done several Minneapolis to Nashville and back and forth with Chauncey in the last year and a half. Done that trip a few times now, and I'm a 3 or 4 o'clock a.m. guy leaver too. I totally get it, but I don't have little kids and I don't have teenagers. That's just me and a dog, or me and Rosemary and a dog. So it's a little easier to get it out of get it moving. My dad would be the guy who would fill the thermos with coffee. And then we'd be on the road, and then, it was like a big deal. Son, top off my coffee for me. And you'd have to open the thermos, and it was like I remember the first time I did it, thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to pour the coffee. Like, I must be like he must think I'm a human being now. Like I'm old enough to pour steaming hot coffee in a moving car into a styrofoam cup. That's trust. That was like a huge step up for me. I mean, I was still in the back seat. I wasn't a front seat kid yet, but that was a big deal, man. And that smell of that coffee in the car. And if my dad was driving, you know what we were listening to? Nothing.
Yeah, no.
Really?
Awful.
My dad wasn't. It was like the Dumb and Dumber scene. Radio? Who needs a radio? My dad only sang one song, the Lollipop song. Not Lil Wayne's Lollipop song. That lollipop, lollipop, loopa, la, and then with the finger in the cheek kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow.
He'd rip that bad boy out. But, this was a guy that, got into a fight with a friend of his. They were wrestling in the yard because Dad was too cheap to spend $35 for the radio in the vehicle. That was the add-on for it. It's another $35 if you want to put the radio in it. Dad's like, what do I need a radio for? Just makes noise.
Ooh, baby. Yeah, on the road trips when it was just my mom, it was a whole different story. It was music the whole time. She loved humming along, singing her barbershop harmonies along to whatever was on the radio. It was great. When the duck was behind the wheel, man, it was just the cone of silence. It was like you're at control and you're having a secret meeting with Maxwell Smart. Just awful. Keep it down. Who's breathing back there? Dad, you're doing 70. How can you hear this? Anyway, that's how that goes.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Thursday, July the 3rd. The Stray Cats. As badass a live show as I've ever seen. The one time I saw that band, I can't believe it's only been once. They are at the Ledge Amphitheater August 9th. They put on a hootenanny of sorts. Great show live, and we've got a couple tickets, and we would love to give these tickets away. And as it is the eve of the 4th of July, I'm sure Tony Lee has the perfect patriotic game to subject our listeners to.
I do. I love America. So let's play this.
Yeah, baby.
So this is Patriotic or Idiotic. Are they real 4th of July fascinating trivia facts, or are they just made up?
That's great. I love it. Patriotic or idiotic. Not necessarily, that's not necessarily a Venn diagram with a huge middle section, but we get a little something in there. All right, I'm excited to play this. We've got two callers locked and loaded. I believe we have Steve ready to go. Steve, are you there, sir?
I'm there. Talk about sitting in silence for 10 minutes. I can't imagine 8 hours on a road trip as a kid.
Oh, you're more than ready to play. I can feel it already, brother. All right, Tony's gonna take it from here. Good luck, Steve.
Thanks.
Good luck, Steve, you fine American. Number one, the first public 4th of July event at the White House took place in 1801, hosted by Thomas Jefferson, and featured music, food, and horse racing. Is that true or false?
False.
I'm sorry, that is true. Thomas Jefferson threw a fine bash in 1801.
TJ getting serious out there. All right, fair enough.
Party boy. Number two, according to the American Flag Code, if Apollo Creed were a real person and a real boxer, he would be found to be in violation and subject to penalty.
Yes.
That is true. The American Flag Code states that the flag should never be used for apparel, bedding, or drapery. So Apollo was sporting that patriotic.
Certainly was.
Trunks. Boxing trunks. You guys ever wear trunks?
Trunks?
Yeah.
I've worn a trunk or two over the never a boxing trunk. Never gotten in the squared circle myself.
All right, Steve, number three. Before the Star-Spangled Banner became the national anthem in 1931, it was originally proposed to be the rousing hit Turkey in the Straw.
That sounds weird enough. I'm going to go true.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Turkey in the straw?
It was not going to be turkey.
Our national bird was the turkey.
No, I like the way you're thinking there, Steve. I'm just not familiar with turkey in the straw myself. All right, Steve, 1 for 3. Let's get back on this horse, brother.
Steve-O, number 4. It's called American cheese, but it's actually a creamy blend of French Gruyere and Italian mozzarella.
True?
Nope, it's just processed chemical mystery.
Some of the best American chemicals, however.
Oh, yeah.
American goo.
Nope and ope all at the same time.
All right, your last one. The phrase, put your John Hancock here, when signing your name to a document, was inspired by the fact that it took John Hancock 20 tries to sign the Declaration of Independence because he was nervous and messed up spelling his own name as he was virtually illiterate.
I was excited because his name was so big. He wanted them to go with him. I kind of want to say false.
But what are you saying?
Commit, man.
I want to say false.
You are correct. No, he was just the first person to sign it. That's why they say. Put your John Hancock.
They wanted it big and big for whatever, for the king to see.
So the king could read it without his monocle.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Good job, Steve.
Steve, 2 for 5, but a scrappy 2 for 5 is what we'd call that. That's like me on the back nine after I lose 3 balls on the front side. Scrappy, still fighting to get back under par. Well played, sir. We're going to put you on hold. We're going to go to contestant number 2. I believe we have Cassidy ready to play. Cassidy, are you with us?
I am.
Right on, brother. Patriotic or idiotic? Let's get to it. Tony?
Let's go, Cassidy. Number 1, 3 presidents who signed the Declaration of Independence actually died on July 4th.
True.
John Adams and Thomas Jefferson both died on July 4th, 1826. James Monroe kicked the bucket in 1831. All on July 4th.
Sounds like somebody killed them on that day.
Whoa.
Don't start rumors, Cassidy.
Conspiracy Cassidy showed up to play this morning. I like it.
Number 2, the movie Born on the 4th of July was a gritty Vietnam-era drama, but because of the massive success of Broadway's Hamilton, it was almost made into a stage musical farce starring Seinfeld's Jason Alexander and Martin Short in neon-lit wheelchairs.
That sounds like something he might actually do, but I'm going to go with false.
Correct.
Does sound like a Broadway endeavor, doesn't it?
Made up nonsense.
Front row if it happens. Look for me there.
Yeah,
Trust me.
With Martin Short, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cassidy, number 3, according to the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, every 4th of July, Americans consume over 150 million hot dogs across the country.
Yeah, let's go with true.
Yeah.
Bingo.
If I had to do it all over again, that'd be my path, the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council.
Someday.
I mean, I feel like it's passed me by. It's not something it's not a joke, Tony. You just don't start it late in life.
You'll have to campaign for it.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brian Zepp from the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council.
That's right.
Man, that'd be great.
You have a special blazer you wear for that.
Hell yeah.
Cassidy, number 4, in the movie Patriot Games, starring Harrison Ford, Air Force One is hijacked by an eye patch-wearing villain who lost an eye to fireworks, who's played by Sinbad.
False?
Correct.
Boy, Cassidy running the table right here.
How about that? And
just watch Patriot Games last month. What an awful movie. My
yeah,
God.
I know you hated that.
God awful.
Well, would have been better with Sinbad, apparently.
It would have. What isn't better with Sinbad?
And your last one, number 5, the American flag's traditional triangle fold is meant to mimic a 3-cornered hat, the style favored by George Washington.
That sounds real. Let's go with true.
Nice job.
Wow. Cassidy, 5 for 5. I mean, you're our own Uncle Sam here, brother. Very well played. That's a clean sweep. Steve, 2 for 5. I'm sorry, not going to be enough today. Very much appreciate you taking the time to call in and compete. But Cassidy, my man, you ran the table. You got Stray Cats tickets August 9th at the Ledge Amphitheater. That's going to be an awesome show. Good luck. I should say, have a good night there. And thanks for playing.
Hey, thanks a lot.
You got it.
Wow, Cassidy's a fine American, and Steve apparently is a communist.
Apparently, that's... You're supposed to know all of these things. Are you guys aware of the fact that we declared our independence from Great Britain on July 2nd, 1776?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. July 2nd was when the first draft went down and everybody said, here, 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 yeah, ha, 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 murmur, murmur, murmur. It was the 2nd. John Adams was shocked to discover that people said July 4th was our national independence day. That's when they started signing it on July 4th. But that I should say, they started signing it on the 2nd, but the 4th is when it was formally adopted by the Continental Congress. Therefore, they said it's officially the 4th of July, which rings out way better than the 2nd of July.
True.
If it was 2nd of July, you'd say it's July 2nd. Because it's July 4th, you say the 4th of. I mean, 2nd of doesn't roll off the tongue like 4th of to my brain. So I think they got it right. I think the 4th of July makes more sense. And if it had been July 2nd and 3 presidents died on the 4th of July, nobody would have even connected the dots there. So, it's better this way.
If you say so.
Just saying. When I said something the other day about having been to the Kennedy Center honors one time, the weekend of the Saturday night before the big event, there's a dinner for all the people involved at the State Department. And so we all went down to the State Department, and they have this giant, it's an office building, like a modern office building. But when you get to the top floor, you come off the elevators, and it's like you're in a 19th century Virginia mansion, like the way it's decorated and the way it looks. It's like you've just gone through a time warp somehow. It's kind of amazing. And so we're in this giant room having a cocktail party, and I'm standing there with a drink in my hand, and Don who was producing a record for us at the time, legendary producer, he's standing with me, and Newt Gingrich walks over and goes, "Hey, Don," and Don goes, "Hey, Newt," and I thought these are the 2 last people on earth I thought would know each other, much less be friends, but they'd met at this event before, and they're chatting, and Newt Gingrich at the time was still a senator from the state of Georgia, or congressman, I should say, from Georgia. And Don introduced us, and he goes, "Oh, Black Crowes, Georgia Boys, okay." And I'm like, "Hey, Newt," and standing there waiting for it to go away. And I set my drink down. There was a desk right next to me. It was like a roll-top desk, one of those ones you can open up and fold out the part where you would put your document and write on or whatever. It extends a little bit. It's an old, antique-looking wooden desk. I put my drink down on there at some point. Which other people had done the same. It's got a napkin under it, but I just set it down there. And Don is talking to Newt, and Newt's looking around the room, and he says to me, he goes, "There's a lot of things in this room that will kind of blow your mind." And he goes, "That painting right there on the wall, that's the dollar bill. And the painting of George Washington that is on the dollar bill, the actual painting itself is just right there on the wall." And I was like, "Shouldn't that be behind glass or something?" And of course he laughed and he goes, "Well, anybody that's up here is probably, not going to mess with it." And I was like, "Yeah, good point." And then he looked at me and goes, "By the way, that desk you just set your drink on, that's one of the 4 desks that the Declaration of Independence was signed on."
Yeah. Oh.
And I said, "I'm sorry, what?" And he goes, "They had 4 of them lined up, and they were laying out all the documents for everyone to sign. And I picked up my drink in a hurry, like the feds were going to swoop in and put me in jail for leaving a ring on the wood." And he laughed. He goes, "No, I mean, it's a desk. It's what it's here for. Don't worry about it. That thing's been sitting there for 190 years, whatever it was." And I was just, it kind of freaked me out. Like, oh, that's actually one of the desks that they signed the Declaration of Independence on. Okay, cool. Glad my gin and tonic took a break right there.
Yeah. You get some money for that on the Antique Roadshow, I bet.
I would imagine that would be worth a pretty penny, for sure. By the way, the 4th of July, not a federal holiday until what year? Anybody want to take a guess when they finally made it an official federal holiday?
I'll say 2025.
Wow. Close. 1941.
Oh, no kidding. I was going to say that.
So 1941. And so after we'd only had one official 4th of July as a federal holiday, those bastards hit Pearl Harbor, didn't they? I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see 1941. I just go right to December 7th every time.
I think Steven Spielberg.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, Belushi.
Yeah, yeah.
1941.
I saw recently that you know who it was? The woman, I forgot how that movie opens, which is like an homage and a spoof of Jaws. The opening scene to Jaws. There's a naked woman for a swim, and a Japanese submarine comes up from underwater, and she grabs the periscope, and it rides her up. Yeah. And it was a whole, and it's Spielberg kind of making fun of Spielberg. And the woman who played the part of the swimmer in Jaws, who was then killed, the first scene in the movie, she then was also in 1941. Same actress. As far as I know, she had 2 parts, and it was the same thing. I need you to swim naked. Got it, man. Just boom, I'm your girl.
Not a lot of range.
Not a lot of range. And I saw that because I just in the last couple of months, she passed away, and so everybody was paying tribute to her. 2 moments on screen, both times naked in the ocean. Not a bad IDBM or whatever that's called. Whatever internet movie. IMDb. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
That's pretty good. Well, I could be worse. I could be FU. I could be all effed up. I'm just DB instead.
Yeah.
I'm just damn burnt, man. I'm damn burnt. That's all I am. 4th of July couldn't come any sooner. I need, I'm looking forward to a road trip in a couple days to kick back, enjoy some hot dogs, think about working them off later.
Right here in the middle of summer, it's just, it's fantastic. My family doesn't get together for years, decades, really. We always get together over the 4th of July, but we're not everybody's family. Too much extended family wanting to stay in their own corner of the world. But, yeah, no, always fond of this. Who doesn't love a 4th of July week?
You still like sparklers?
Sparklers?
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever... I'm sure
are
the
those
kids have
even
them.
real fireworks?
No, it's not a firework.
No.
Good God, no. It's not a firework. But they're fun. Yeah, the kids run around with them. And,
I like a good sparkler.
Yeah, sure. We used to get into sword fights with them.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they kind of sting.
Yeah, they do sting. Catch a spark in the eyeball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just always love the fact that the thing you would light that's kind of like an incense stick that you would then light your fireworks was called a punk.
Yeah, punk.
That just as a kid, I was always like, that's the coolest thing.
Pass the punk, man. Pass the punk.
Where's the punk, man? Yeah, I love it. Hey, here's some good news for your holiday weekend. Homegrown marijuana in Minnesota. If you got some, you're going to want to hear. Good news on the horizon. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Wednesday, July 3rd. What's the best background song for fireworks? The KQRS Facebook page has asked that question. A lot of answers. Clint wins the day for me. He wrote the theme song for Love American Style. Oh, man, what a show that was. It was just a show about people in the 70s hooking up, wasn't it? Pretty much. That's what I remember?
They were naughty.
They were naughty. On the KQ Talk and Text line, 651-989-ROCK, a lot of people submitting things as well. McCartney's Live and Let Die. That sounds like good fireworks music to me. Another text, did Steve almost drop an F-bomb? The answer is yes, I almost did.
Almost doesn't get us fined, though. So
no, it doesn't.
I just want to point that out.
I don't know how that happened. One minute I'm talking, the next minute I'm sweating. Whoa, wait, what the heck just happened? But here's the text I wanted to share with you guys. Dave from Wisconsin texted, sparklers are, in fact, real fireworks. Take a few packages of them, grab your trusty duct tape, and tape them tightly together. Make sure you add a fuse. Put your new package in an open field and light the fuse. Get back and watch the reaction. Well, that's something, huh?
Good tip.
Yeah, no one's ever suggested that you could have fun with sparklers like that anyway. That's completely news to me. And now next time I have a bunch of sparklers, I might just have to get some duct tape and a fuse and figure that one out.
You have to give that a run.
I mean, why not? I'm happy to know new things. I'm happy to learn all sorts of new things. If you tell me sparklers will blow up en masse, I'm going to give it a shot. As we've talked about, Minnesota marijuana laws, legal marijuana here in the state. Eventually, you'll be able to just buy it wherever you want it. But, we're moving slowly, regulatory things being as they are. Retail licenses are still several months away. But there is a law from the early 1900s, 1906, in fact, that a few people are looking to work around. They're seeing it as a possible, I guess, a loophole. Yeah. Essentially, here's the deal. In 1906, a law was passed that allows us to sell things from our gardens or from our farms without a license. A farmer back then was punished for selling homegrown melons, and then he was like, "What? Come on, this is ridiculous. I grew a melon, I sold it to a neighbor." The law is then written to allow us to sell things from our gardens. But apparently that doesn't apply to marijuana. A gentleman named Patrick McClellan has been growing marijuana in his backyard. This man suffers from muscular dystrophy. He's had a medical marijuana patient's license for 9 years, but now he's growing his own because it got so expensive. He's got a crop of 2 pounds and he wants to sell some of it. And he's being told by the attorney general, no, you're not able to sell. because his response was this law from 1906. He goes, "Hey man, the state constitution says no license is required for homegrown farm or garden products. The state is saying cannabis plant is not a product of a farm or a garden." And of course, McClellan, the gentleman in question, is going, "That's like saying a tomato is not a tomato, or a tomato is not a tomato, I guess." We cannot give our lawmakers the ability to tell us that a plant is now not a plant. We'll see where this one goes.
Has marijuana been legal forever?
No, sir.
Oh, so it has been illegal.
It has been.
So they can tell us that a plant is just not a plant, because I could grow a rose bush if I wanted to, but previous to us passing this legislation, I couldn't grow a marijuana plant. It's a controlled substance. I love the idea of being able to just sell it yourself, but you're getting into taxes and all sorts of licenses, So I've got to open a dispensary, and I have 5,000 regulatory hoops to jump through, and I've got all these taxes and fees I've got to pay, but Joe Schmo down the street just can grow it and sell it to his neighbor? Probably not. I'm sure they'll slam the door shut on this one.
The minute you start selling, that's when the state pays attention. You want to grow it, you want to smoke it, knock yourself out. You're going to put a dollar sign on that thing, we got to get involved.
Yeah.
That's how that goes.
Well, that is how that goes.
From what they tell me. I've never grown marijuana myself. Haven't ever gone down that path.
No,
don't plan to.
Yeah, no, I tried before the internet one time, but turns out there's a trick to it. There's a whole bunch of things that I didn't even know you couldn't even smoke the male plants. I didn't know what was going on, so just made a terrible mess of it.
I've talked to people who've been very successful at growing weed, and when they explain what all is involved, that right away, that's like, you might as well ask me to repair a computer.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. There's no way I can keep up with that much information.
I couldn't keep a cactus alive, so there's clipping and all sorts of things going on there. It needs attention, apparently water and some sort of light, and whoa, why don't you grow some and I'll buy it off you illegally.
The first time I ever played a drum kit in front of people was a New Year's Eve party, 83 New Year's Eve, at a house in Nashville, and we got there to set up the gear for the band. And the room in the house that we were going to set up and play, the dude had to move all of his pot plants and his lights, and he had all these really hot, high octane lights set up, and like tarp. It was just like a whole thing. And I remember thinking, like, this is. It was like cartel level to me at that time. And it was just some dude in a white T-shirt in Tennessee who had like 7 plants. It was no big deal. But I remember thinking the whole time, like, I might get busted. I mean, the cops are probably surveilling this place right now. I hadn't been around drugs much at that point in my life. Fun fact about me as well. The first time I ever got stoned, I was 22 years old. Mm-hmm. That's old for,
That does seem a little late.
Does seem a little late. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the stoners I knew in high school they didn't like me. You know what I mean? I just didn't feel like I didn't feel comfortable getting in their world and getting in their realm, and it was chalk and cheese the whole time. So it took a while.
Yeah, I was in my 20s first time I tried it. Really? Yeah, well, we didn't have it in South Dakota. Wasn't around. Ooh. Plenty of Jack Daniels and cheap beer, but no pot. Every once in a while you'd hear about, that kid over there. His uncle lives down that road. He's an old Vietnam vet. He's got some reefer. Just never crossed paths.
Yeah, I was in Athens, Georgia at a guy's house and enjoyed 2, maybe 3 hits off the joint, laughed a little bit, thought, man, I think I didn't realize I was already this drunk, and then I was sound asleep, and that was it. And then I woke up and had a headache, and I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to do that again for a while. Tony, what's the first stoner story?
I was about 15, I think.
Perfect
and
age.
I came home, and my parents, of course, were still up. They're in the den watching TV. And I'm like, oh, damn it. So I had to go in there, sit down, and have a little chat.
Of course.
And I remember my dad started talking about some meeting he went to in some big office. They built like a new conference room, but it was in the basement of the building. And I remember I just stared at him and I went, wow, how'd you get down there? And he just looked at me and he said, there was an elevator, made it pretty easy.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, God, they know.
Oh, yeah, you always think you're busted, right?
Oh, that's great. How'd you get down there?
Yeah. Oh, he just looked at me with disdain. I have no son.
I could just see you in the elevator. Did you hit the button with your index finger? I can totally see it, Dad. That's so you.
Feel that.
Oh, heck yeah. No, say it. Yeah. The first words out of your mouth when you realize as you're saying them that you're stoned and someone's going to be on you, that's always a special amount of sweat that just comes comes flying out of the pores. On any other night, you could have come in and just poked your head in and gone, going to bed. And they would have been like, see you later. But because you're stoned, you're like, I better sit down and pull up a chair and have a chat.
Yeah, I better wander in there and see what the light is about.
It never occurs to you to just walk straight to your room, which is what they expect you to do, which is what you do all the other times. But no, now I've got to stop and prove to them, show them that I'm not stoned.
A stoned moth to the light. That's just I can see it, man.
I remember having the conversation with the girls when they were older in their 20s going, come on, when's the first time you got stoned? Come on, tell me. And they had a similar story to Tony's, different scenario, obviously. And I thought, I didn't even, and I'm an old stoner, and I didn't even, teenagers are weird. I mean, they act stoned when they're not stoned, so it's hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah,
I just, either that or I just wasn't prepared at that time in my life to even make that leap that my daughters could be stoned, but yeah, they were. A couple of times I was like, oh, yeah, now that I look back on it, it seems very obvious. Yeah. And then you started crying and ran to your room or something like that. Sydney, I remember she was just smiling uncontrollably, kept putting her face in her hands. I'm like, is everything all right? And she said, I have a headache. I went, hold on, let me go get you some Tylenol. What? She's trying to hold back a laugh. She can't stop smiling.
Yeah. Throw a burrito in with that Tylenol.
Right,
Dad.
trying to hide her face. And I'm like, well, let me get you some Tylenol there, kiddo. I'm sure I snuck into the bathroom and did a 1E before I got her some Tylenol. But
that's awesome. Ryder, anything you want to share on first stoner experiences?
Oh, no, mine's pretty straightforward. I had my game face. It was That 70s Show circle style thing. There were like four of us in a suburban basement. I had my game face on when I went home, and I did, in fact, just go straight to bed. And it was probably the first time as a teenager that I went to bed before 8 o'clock.
How's it feel being the smart one on a radio show?
I mean, I feel like the bar's kind of low, so I don't,
Yeah, I was going to say, you just barely lift your foot off the floor to get over that bar.
Yeah.
It's just right there. The smartest kid in the room, always. Just go right to bed, 8 o'clock. Yeah, I don't know, just beat. That's how that works.
Tough day, yeah.
It never dawned on me in a million years. The reason I never got stoned in high school was just because of what was waiting for me at home. If I knew if I showed up and had beer on my breath, my dad would give me, he'd kill me, but it would be sort of just because he felt like he had to, but he understood drinking was something that would happen. But if I'd shown up stoned, I mean, he would have literally killed me. Like my dad was like that. There was such a line between drinking and smoking weed. There was just never, ever going to be a chance where I thought that was going to make sense. And then then once he was, out of the picture, I just gotten to the point where I was like, well, whatever. I probably missed my moment for a while, so I didn't go back to it. I did watch my brother. My brother was arrested while on LSD once, and my dad was like, I'll see you tomorrow, son, as he was taken from the house in handcuffs. You'll spend the night in the joint. See you later. And my brother said later he contemplated telling my dad, no, Dad, I'm on acid. Like, you can't make me spend the night in jail. I'm on acid. And he realized, even high on acid, no, jail on acid will be better than telling my dad I'm on acid.
Yeah.
Like that's going to go real bad. I'll just take my chances at a drunk tank.
One of the great satirical Onion headlines of all time, I guess they all are, that was redundant. But for those people that don't remember the Onion or aware of the Onion, alcoholic father upset with or disappointed with pothead son.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Dirty Doug says, from past experience with duct tape, sparklers, get the hell back. It's flying metal tiny pieces. So just an added warning there.
All right. We got a text from Dana who says, I've been growing in my garden and caring for it the same as my tomatoes. Over 1.5 pounds last year, just to get back to that. So, yeah, grow it, man. Bring it. You know what? If you want to, hey, Dana, if you want to bring some of your tomatoes by the show, we'll take it. I love a good tomato.
Yeah, drop it off in the 92 KQRS parking lot.
Yeah, man, I love a good homegrown tomato.
I see what you're doing there.
Here's another text. To make a sparkler bomb, it has to be colored sparklers. The standard gold sparklers sold in Minnesota don't explode. And then again, use electrical tape. It pulls them closer together. How have I not known that you can make sparkler bombs? I'm almost 60. What the hell?
I don't know. You weren't at the right parties. But
clearly,
leave it to Minnesota. We don't even have sparklers that it could explode. Jeez.
Another one, the sparkler, Mark from Somerset. Sparkler bomb is real. Wrapped tight with many layers of electrical tape, can be similar to an M80.
Wow.
Except that M80s do not have wire shrapnel.
Yeah.
Saw one placed and lit, and the person hit the throttle on the ATV he was on and barely cleared the blast radius.
Yeah, this is a serious endeavor if you're going to take it on.
It was next to a pond. You could see the shock wave.
Give yourself plenty of fuse.
Yeah, clearly. The things you learn sitting around on a day before the 4th of July. That's fantastic. All right, fair enough. On the KQ Facebook page, a lot of suggestions for songs, fireworks set well to. And 1812 Overture, again, I think that's probably still leading the charge, which totally checks out. A Florida man was caught trying to steal about $3,000 worth of dirt from a municipal services facility. Dude named Dimitri Alexander Alvarado showed up to a facility with 10 trucks, and he ordered backhoe operators to load them up with dirt. A supervisor at the facility showed up for work, and someone told him 15 loads of dirt was being loaded onto the trucks. The supervisor called police and said, "There's a guy here getting dirt. He's not authorized." Police showed up, and it turned out he was not, in fact, authorized. They arrested him. One thing we don't know yet is what my man was planning to do with 10 trucks worth of dirt.
Probably grow some tomatoes.
Yeah.
Could have been a whole tomato racket.
Yeah, dirt's a thing. Got to have dirt.
I guess 15 loads of it, 10 trucks of dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the bravado of just showing up with the trucks and thinking, if I've got the trucks, we'll be good to go.
It made me think.
Let me pass on through.
Wasn't one of those Die Hard movies? Wasn't there a series of like dump trucks that were doing something in New York City? It was all about dump trucks, and Samuel L. Jackson was yelling, and Bruce Willis was drinking, and
it was full of gold bars or something.
Oh, is that what it was? Gold bars. Okay. 651-989 Rock is the KQ Talking text line. We have a caller, Tony.
Yeah, we do. Stu had a little experience with substances.
Stu, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. How you guys doing?
We're great, brother. What do you got for us?
Oh, guy, I was just laughing at your story about your brother going to jail on acid. Early 72, I got my first moving violation. I was 16 and a half on LSD. I made a bad left turn, and the cop pulled me over. And I had 3 other guys in the car. My buddies throw their pot out the window, and I get out of the car to talk to the cop, and I look up, and I can see the guy's bag of pot sitting in the middle of the street. Mm-hmm. It was hilarious. And I was just nervous. I grabbed everything out of the glove, and I'm spilling the paper. I think the cop just thought I was nervous and scared getting my ticket and gave me a ticket and let me go. That's San Francisco in the 70s, you know?
Yeah,
they didn't care.
No, they have a lot more going on, San Francisco, with all that Dirty Harry stuff running around. No, that's pretty great, man. Thank you for that. We appreciate you sharing that story. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, brother. Thank you very much.
Hey, have a good 4th of July, you guys. Morning, Ryder.
Morning. Good to hear from you, Stu.
Right on.
Later.
Saturday night at the Turf Club, a band called the Baseball Project will be appearing. The Baseball Project, made up of 2 members of REM, bassist Mike Mills and guitarist Peter Buck, along with Steve Wynn of the Dream Syndicate. If you are unfamiliar with this band, believe me when I say it's a great band who write great songs. Lyrically, every song is about baseball, and it's not like a joke. These are diehard baseball fans, and they're having a lot of fun playing shows. They'll be there Saturday night. I'll be there Saturday night, and Steve Wynn from the Baseball Project will join us for a few minutes of good old banter. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Wednesday, July the 3rd, 2024. This Saturday, July the 6th at the Turf Club, the Baseball Project will be performing. The Baseball Project, you hear it described a million different ways. Alt-rock supergroup, 2 members of REM, a guy from the Dream Syndicate, Young Fresh Fellows, the -5, Filthy Friends, all comes together in the Baseball Project, a great rock and roll band who sings songs exclusively about baseball. A whole bunch of my favorite people are involved in this, and one of them is on the horn with us right now, Steve Wynn. Good morning, brother.
Hey, man. Good to talk to you.
It's great. It has been a while. It's been too long. Yeah. I'm very happy to talk to you, and I'm very happy that you're coming to St. Paul Saturday night. For anybody who's not familiar with the Baseball Project, give me the really quick version. How does a bunch of people, every musician has friends in other bands, and you always say, hey, we got to get together and play. We should do something. We should do something. And then when you guys actually get together and do it, it turns into a band that writes songs about baseball. What is that? Explain that one to me.
Pretty strange, right? I mean, it is, and you're completely right. You know how that goes. We all go way back together, and we've all been on the circuits. Me and Peter Buck and Mike Mills from REM, and Scott McCoy from Young Fresh Fellows, the -5, and Linda Pittman from the Twin Cities' very own Zuzu's Pedals. And we all, go back 30, 40 years and have a great friendship. But as it turns out, we're all big baseball fans too. And the band started when REM got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 2007, and we were all 5 of us were hanging out there at the party the night before the event. And Scott McCoy and I kind of ended up in the corner of the bar, started talking, and we both realized we had always wanted to write an entire album about baseball. And you know how it goes. You get a concept like that, and then think about it for years, then never do it. But once we had somebody to spur us on, we were off and running. And within 6 months, we had written the songs, recorded the record, got a label, put it out, and we were on the Letterman show playing our first time together, which is a weird arc for a band. And at that point, we just kept doing it because, well, most of all, because we love hanging out and playing music together. And we found this band that people really enjoy, but on top of that, we there's a lot of stories to tell about baseball, and we'll probably never run out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we do a sports history segment every day, and the baseball stories. I think about your band often because I will see a story about, like today, or yesterday, I should say, about there's a guy in the Hall of Fame who died. He fell into Niagara Falls in 1903. And when I read that story, my first thought was, they could write a great song about that guy.
And we did. As it turns out, we on our first album, Big Ed Delahanty, that's a song Scott wrote. And that happens all the time to us. People come up to us and say, you know what would make a great song? And we'll say, yeah, that's on our second album. Yeah, we did that in the first album.
That's fantastic.
But there's more to tell, but we know the history. We know our stuff. I think people, like, for example, we all know the song, probably the most famous rock and roll baseball song is John Fogerty's Center Field. And it's a great song. And it tells us a great story about his comeback and all that. And we use baseball in the same way as a metaphor for other things in life. You don't have to love baseball to love what we do. If you come see us play, and our show Saturday is actually sold out, I should point out. So I don't know if they're going to cram more people in, but we're very happy that the Twin Cities will welcome us back like that. And I should point out, I do want to say that with anybody who can't get into the show on Saturday because it's sold out, we are playing in Des Moines at Willie's the next night. So if someone feels like a road trip, or if your signal goes that far, come on down to Des Moines because there's still tickets for that one.
Yeah, right on.
There's no quiz to get into our shows. If you like baseball, you'll get all the references. If you don't, you'll just hear a band that sounds like who we are. The sounds of REM and the Dream Syndicate and all that mixed into one big stew.
Yeah, it really is fantastic. I've told people that when in talking about your band, I'm like, if you like the bands these guys are from, you're going to love the music. Whether the lyrics resonate on any level or not, it's going to make perfect sense to you. And I love the fact that the Dream Syndicate was a band. I discovered you guys in the 80s when Medicine Show came out, and then I worked my way back and then forward with you. And REM, I was a huge fan. If you had told me in 1984 when I was watching the Dream Syndicate open for REM, at the Fox in Atlanta, if you'd said, these guys are going to be doing a baseball band one day, no way would that have made sense. And yet the first time I saw the Baseball Project, it made perfect sense. You grew up in LA, so you're a Dodgers lifer.
Ooh, it's tricky. It's very tricky. And in fact, we have a song about that, how we all, like you, we've all moved various different places for various reasons, music, love, adventure, all the reasons why people move. And we picked up teams along the way. So I've actually lived in now Linda's a diehard Twins fan, so everyone can be happy about that. There's no complication there. But I've lived in New York for 30 years now, and I got to say, and I know this might not be popular to everybody there, but I'm a Yankees fan almost more than anything. I've been in New York long enough where this is my home, but I know that's the wrong thing to say to the Twin Cities because the Yankees have been a little rough on the Twins over the years.
It happens. Hang up the phone.
Yeah, I know.
I'm messing with you.
Now we're going to see an empty room at the Turf Club on Saturday. Sorry.
No, but that's okay. But I know. You're not one of those. You weren't a Yankee front runner. Like the day you showed up in town, you didn't immediately switch onto the bandwagon. So it was a slower process than that. At least tell me that much.
It was that kind of thing. And in fact, when I moved here, I mean, without going into a whole long detail, but I always loved New York. I always wanted to live here. And even though I'm from LA and the Dream Singer was very much part of an LA scene and all of that, I moved here and said, well, I want to take on a local team. I want to, I want to have a New York team. And as a Dodger fan growing up, it couldn't be the Mets because it's another National League team. So I went with I went with the other league, and at the time, the Yankees were not that good. It's still in the end of the Mattingly years. I hope I'm not boring your listeners here. I know you, but I know you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And exactly, it was before they started winning, so I wasn't jumping on some kind of bandwagon. Just was like, well, I'll take on that, losing New York team and see what happens. So, when you go to a city, you tend to follow the team because that's who you watch every day.
Of course.
So if you can't be with the team you love the team you're with.
There you go. There's a lyric. There's a lyric right there.
Right. I'm working on it right now.
Steve Wynn's with us on the KQ Morning Show. The drummer in the Baseball Project, and your wife Linda Pittman, as you said, a Twin Cities native and a diehard Twins fan. You guys have been together for a long time now, but Minnesota, this area, such a great music scene. You came out of the LA music scene, but I'm sure you have memories of your first time playing in the Twin Cities, probably with the Dream Syndicate, I would imagine.
Yep, you're right. We played in our very first tour back in '83. We played in February, as you can imagine, a cold, snowy February day. My first time setting foot in the Twin Cities. We played First Avenue, and was a sold out show. It was really exciting, and the whispering around the backstage was, Prince is here.
Of course.
He's in, because he was into his Paisley stuff, and all that.
Yeah.
So he was there, and we didn't meet him or see him, but he was, in the shadows somewhere checking us out. So that tickled us.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Well, Prince, everybody that played First Avenue in the 80s was told Prince was there. You're one of the few people that he actually was there that night. The word was always that he was there, but luckily for you, it actually turned out to be true.
Yeah, that was the word. I wish we could have met him, but then he started his Paisley Park thing just a year later. So I guess he kind of got into our little scene we had going out in LA.
Yeah.
And I think he put out a record by the 3 o'clock, another band from our scene, and he wrote that hit for the Bengals. So he was checking out our little LA groovy psychedelic kid scene we had going out there.
Yeah, he certainly was. Steve Wynn of the Baseball Project. I first, as I mentioned, found Steve Wynn in the Dream Syndicate, one of my favorite bands forever. And the Baseball Project at the Turf Club Saturday. Sorry to say, if you don't already have tickets, you're probably going to have a hard time getting in. But if you do come to the show, you'll see me. I'll have the goofy grin on my face watching a bunch of my favorite musicians all playing. And that does include Linda, who's a spectacular drummer. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, just want to send her our love. The news yesterday that Lori Lindeen had passed away, obviously,
very sad time for us. Yeah, we all obviously loved Lori and knew her for years, and she was such a great friend of the band. So we just seen her a few months ago, and Linda, that was Zuzu's Pedals was the band. They all travel around together, and we're just shocked and really sad about that. So
yeah, that's a big loss.
We'll be sending a lot of songs out to Lori on stage on Saturday.
For sure. Zuzu's Pedals, a lot of love for that band still, of course, in the Twin Cities. Steve, I'm looking forward to seeing you, brother. Thanks for taking the time to call in.
Yeah, great talking to you, Steve, as always.
Right. See you in a couple days.
See you in a couple days. Bye.
I saw, as I just referenced, I first saw the Dream Syndicate in 1984, and it was one of those gigs where I knew about the band, I'd heard about this band, and they're opening for REM, and REM must like them, and I sat in my seat and just had my head expand. It was kind of like the aforementioned acid trips we were talking about, just seeing a band doing something very different but very intense, and that gentleman right there has written a bunch of my favorite songs, so I can't wait for Saturday night.
Nice.
Cool. So, wait. I thought we were having the Las Vegas real estate mogul on. Steve.
No. Sorry, not that Steve Wynn. Sorry. I knew that would get your attention if I said it was that Steve Wynn.
That's my buddy Chad, who I'm busting right now. He texted me and he goes, "Is this the guy?" And I'm like, "Shut up, Chad."
He's got a nice hotel.
He's like, "Ask him about the Golden Nugget." I'm like, "Go away, Chad." Chad, go away. I'm telling you on the air.
Yeah, that's. When I first heard of Vegas mogul Steve Wynn, I was like, wait a minute, no way. Come on, man. He's got to change his name. Turns out Steve Wynn from cult favorites The Dream Syndicate wasn't already a household name. Just in my house he was.
Oh,
that's how that goes.
I had a friend that I think the first album that they kind of turned me on to, I'm not going to sit here and say I was a big Dream Syndicate fan, but I had a roommate that I think it was Ghost Stories. I know it was late 80s. I was going to Brown from 87 to 88 and lived with that thing. It was always on, the Dream Syndicate.
Yeah,
I Have Faith or one of those tunes.
It's one of those bands that nobody is hot or they're good. It's hot or cold.
Yes, right.
It really connects with you, or you're like, okay, whatever, on to the next thing. But they came out of that scene, as he mentioned, the Paisley Underground, which Prince was a huge fan of all the bands. It was this LA indie scene. It was the Dream Syndicate, the 3 O'Clock, the Long Riders, and the Bangles. All in this little cluster of bands, and a few others, Green on Red and the Rain Parade. All these great bands all at the same time playing little tiny clubs in LA. And that was this little scene they kind of created, not by design, but just the way local music scenes sprout up. And of all those bands, of course, the Bangles were the ones that had some huge hits, and then of course Prince wrote Manic Monday for them, and there was a connection there. But yeah, it was a fascinating time in Los Angeles in the early '80s when the Sunset Strip was getting all the attention. On the other side of town, there was all this other really cool music happening at the same time,
right?
And that's the place he came out of. So anyway, I'm looking very forward to seeing that. Zuzu's Pedals, we just mentioned, the singer of Zuzu's Pedals passed away a couple days ago. A band that I saw in the early 90s, I guess I want to say. And it's funny because as soon as I saw the news that Lori Lindeen had passed, I was like, oh, right, that's right. Of course, they're from here. And I hadn't connected that in my head, and then it all kind of came back to me. But for a hot minute there, that was a band that everybody was paying very close attention to. So a lot of local musicians and producers and people in the scene today definitely sharing stories about a key part of the 90s rock scene in Minneapolis who passed away on Monday at the age of 62. So that's a tough day for a lot of people. We're all parents here on the show. 3 of us are. Ryder is not a parent as of yet. You got pets, though, right? I mean, come on.
I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, the cat is my child.
Got it. Got it.
No, she has 3.
My baby.
She has 3 aged children to deal with every morning.
Well, that's it. That's just it. And so I was just thinking about some unethical hacks that parents use. I can only imagine the things Ryder's doing on a daily basis that we're too dumb to notice to get us to, you put the ring in the bull's nose and you pull it. That's. I'm sure there's a lot of that happening around here. But I saw a story about parents talking about things they've used on their kids and that they're saying these things are unethical. Like this: when the ice cream truck plays music, that means he's out of ice cream. People tell their kids that. You ever pull that one on your kids? That would have never worked with us. I mean, you'd have to really hit that one early in life, as in the first time you ever hear an ice cream truck.
Yeah, I think I would have beat the kids to the ice cream truck. We're out in the burbs, though, and didn't have them running around out there. And, of course, not out at the farm. But Dad didn't get tricky. He just said no.
Yeah, unethical. Screw that. Suck it up, kid.
Yeah.
How about this? A kid was raised being told by his parents from a very early age, you are allergic to alcohol.
Nice try.
And they came clean on his 18th birthday. They said, hey, you know what? You're not. But he had not had a drink. He believed them. He was like, and it probably made it easier. No peer pressure for him. He's like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm allergic. My parents told me. That's a bit of a stretch. I can't get behind that one. I can totally get behind turning off the ice cream truck vibe, but telling a kid they're allergic to alcohol, that's a rough one.
Yeah, I don't know, that parental hack could backfire on you, but we recently just got reversed hacked on that by a teenager, Colton. Ogle, my young nephew, the last of the family's kids, my nephews and nieces to graduate here on high out there this summer. I go out there. And one time we were together, 4th of July last year, we're all drinking. We're Zeps. We're drunk. And he lays the information on us that at 17 or 16 at that time, he had never had a beer. And he's got 2 brothers. And I said, yeah, it's true. He's a square. At school, everybody says, Colton doesn't drink. He never had a beer. And got us all to pitch in because we were drunk $200 a piece if he would not have a beer until after he turned 18. And that little sucker, a few weeks ago at graduation, cashed in on $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah, he even recorded it with his phone. I said, I wasn't part of that, but I was. I saw it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
I slurred
Holy
it.
smokes.
I'm in for 200.
Yeah, there you go.
Smoked me for $200.
Nah, he knew a mark when he saw one.
Oh, yeah.
Uncle Brian's drunk. Watch this. How about this? Parents have told their kids when the batteries in a really loud and annoying toy die, they tell their kids, sorry, they don't make those batteries anymore. Wow.
I took the batteries out of one really obnoxious loud toy. I don't remember what it was, but it was fuzzy, and it sounded like a siren going off, and I took the batteries out and told them it was broken.
Sure, that makes more sense.
I just pet it. It's fuzzy. You can still play with it.
Yeah. That's better than saying they don't make those batteries anymore because that's eventually going to blow up in your face. The kid's going to see the batteries at the store. That's
going to Google it.
The same batteries you're putting in the remote,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about your goldfish went on vacation? He'll be back soon.
Yeah.
Went to a farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done the goldfish in a plastic bag, bring them home before. But I had too many older siblings for any of these things to have worked on me. I got the truth way too early in life on a lot of life's most difficult subjects, such as that goldfish. We flushed it down the toilet, and the dog. They took the dog to the farm, but that's not really where the dog went. I was getting all the info from the older siblings.
Yeah, I think those of us raised by the boomers it was just tough love. They couldn't wait to tell or the truth, the hard truth of life.
Yeah, I think about changing the time on the clock to make them go to bed at 7:15, but you change the clock to say it's already 8. That would have never worked on my kids because I just knew, internal clocks are internal clocks. They're not going to suddenly go to sleep 45 minutes earlier. They're going to lay in bed and make noise and actually make it worse on everybody. When I was a kid, again, my parents didn't have any of that. There was no shame in their game. There was never making any new. Let's make this a little easier to swallow. Screw that. Drink it with Drano, kid. Here's the hard facts. You're pissing me off. Go to bed early. Okay, fine. Whatever. Man, these people are jumping through hoops that you just don't. You're inventing a hoop to jump through it with all these kind of things.
Kind of are, aren't you? Another hoop crazy. You're going to have to jump through later on down the road.
That's exactly. You're creating a hoop that will then spawn a tighter hoop for which you to thread the needle next time, because you're just planting seeds for a lot of disillusionment with these.
Oh, I think about it. It's kind of like me in a relationship.
Yeah, I remember thinking one time, wait, why am I taking this 6-year-old kid seriously? Just because he's mine? I was like, Wait, he's trying to make a case and I'm listening to it? He's 6. I would not listen to a 6-year-old some 6-year-old off the street ain't getting anywhere with me. Just because this kid is my kid, why am I thinking he might know what he's talking about? He's just throwing word salad out and trying to spin the story. Yeah, it's hard because when you're a parent, you do want to look at your kid and think, they're so smart, they're so insightful. He's well ahead of the average 6-year-old. And then, you look up a minute later and he's putting a spoon in his butt. And you're like, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's just a 6-year-old boy. Yeah. He's just the same as every other 6-year-old boy. And these things happen. All right, we got to look back here momentarily. We're going to live. We're going to learn. Sports and music history coming up. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Wednesday, July the 3rd. Good morning. There's nothing we like better around here, well, at least three of us, than stories of old men strength. You know, the older you get, the more you just don't care about how much it hurts. You just want to make sure the other guy hurts too. Old men strength. You just don't care. The lesson almost always is don't mess with an old man. They've just seen too much. They don't give a crap. A 29-year-old gentleman in Brevard County, Florida, made a significant mistake when he was trying to, steal a truck that belonged to a 66-year-old man. It was actually a carjacking situation. Dude, 29-year-old Blake Robinson is like, that looks like an older fella. And he does look like an older fella. The 66-year-old man in question does look every bit of his 66 years. The 29-year-old thought, I'm going to go just grab this guy and throw him out of his pickup truck and move on with it. No, that's not how that works. Dude got his ass kicked. By the time the deputies arrived, dude was lying on the ground, bleeding from his mouth, with a 66-year-old man standing over him going, hey, I tried to tell him not to. I tried to tell him. Just don't mess with an old man. That's just not going to work well for you.
No, it never worked well for me when I was a young man. Not under these circumstances, grand theft auto, but, back when we were growing up, of course, any old guy out there was an old man, and he could handle you in any way. I mean, he could give you a whooping if he wanted to, if you were stepping out of line. But no, that old man strength, that's a real thing. You know what you're doing. When you're young, you're just awkward. And, of course, 29 isn't that young, but I love it. I love it.
Well, you also don't care what it looks like. That's I think almost the key. Yeah. When you're a younger guy and chests are starting to puff and testosterone starts to flow, you're still in the back of your mind. You want to look cool. Yeah, you get to a certain age where you're like, that's the least of my concerns. I'm just going straight to the jugular. Yep. I don't care how bad it looks. I'm gonna knock your ass down if you get in my face.
The other variable, it being a truck.
Yeah.
You don't hear about a lot of trucks getting carjacked. I think just truck drivers in general, you're not taking the truck. There's a personal connection there.
Sure.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I experienced a lot of this, not like in bar fights, and I was certainly not trying to carjack people, but I had my ass handed to me only a couple times as a young man in my early 20s playing pickup basketball, because you see that older guy, and you can recognize, I bet he was good back in the day, but I'm going to show him up now. I'm gonna embarrass this old man. And at the time, it's like old man on the basketball court's like 36. Right. I'm gonna embarrass this guy. And then you get in there in the middle of it, and you're like, the play ends and the ball's out of bounds, and suddenly you're like, why does my spleen hurt? Like, what just happened? Why are my ribs on fire? You're like, he's got all the old man tricks. He knows how to kill me without me noticing at the actual moment.
When did setting a pick hurt so much?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my God, that is really, really, really uncool what just happened to me. But I'm never going to admit it because I'm the one running my mouth here. Yeah, don't mess with the oldsters. They're past it. There's a bunch of old men who are going to be playing a bunch of gigs in Las Vegas. I almost forgot to mention this. The Eagles, young old men. They're still on the younger side of old guys. Who am I kidding? They're old, but they're still the Eagles, and they still sound great. They're playing the Sphere Las Vegas this fall. You could be there. You can win a trip for two with flights, of course. You could stay at the Venetian Resort Las Vegas, get dinner for two tickets to the show, plus a VIP experience package. All you got to do is text the national keyword TELL, TELL, to 95819 now to enter for a chance to win. This is a great old woman story. Don't mess with an old man. Don't mess with an old woman. A story from China. An old woman, as in a 90-year-old woman, has been living in a home for years. The house was about to be destroyed. It was being demolished. And workers found what this woman said was, that's my hammer. I was looking for that. Thanks. And the workers are like, what do you mean? She goes, that's my hammer. I've been using this thing for 20 years. I found it. I've nailed in every time I need to hammer in a nail, but I also crack nuts with it. I've been using it for anything I ever needed. I just found it in the yard one day, and the construction workers were like, yeah, ma'am, we don't think that's a hammer. We're going to call in the bomb squad. And it's a good thing they did, because it was a an old grenade from World War II with a wooden handle on the grenade.
A potato masher.
Exactly. An old school potato masher. The bomb squad then detonated it, ending its tenure as a hammer. But for over 20 years, this woman's just been using this thing on a regular basis. Oh, is that loose? Let me grab my hammer. All good. Yeah. I mean, that's a story that this is one of those ones we'd hey, a 90-year-old woman blew herself up using a grenade for a hammer, but it never happened. She somehow skirted disaster for over 20 years.
Yet 2 or 3 we've already heard one hand go this year. Some fella just yesterday or the day before blew his hand off with fireworks. But the old lady gets away with using a grenade as a hammer for 20 or 30 years. Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You cross the state line, you go to some guys, you go into a little store, you buy some fireworks, and disaster, it's a totally legal thing. You pay the money, you come home, you get drunk, you blow your finger off. Or you just pick up a World War II grenade and use it recklessly for decades.
Oh, man.
That makes perfect sense.
I bet she was pissed off that they stole her hammer, too. Yeah. I'm sure they didn't replace it.
Yeah, you guys have to leave one behind now.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, there's a photo of it. It's a wooden handle. It looks really nice. It's all smoothed. It's been used so much. It just looks perfectly worn down. She's like, that fits my hand perfectly at this point. What are you doing? Man. She's hand her like a regular hammer. Hand her a ball peen hammer. She'll look at you and go, I can't do my work with this. Like, come on, this is boring. Come on, you can at least put some gunpowder on the peen, would you? Give me a thrill here. This is a great story. As long as it's the 4th of July and we're talking about Independence Day, and this country finding itself. Here's a great story from a little later date in history. 1863, when the nation was preserved, if you will. Let's go back to the Battle of Gettysburg. The 1st Minnesota Volunteer Infantry was outnumbered 6-1, and they suffered 82% casualties when they charged headlong into the rebel forces to shore up a gap in Union lines. Okay. 1863 Gettysburg, 1st Minnesota Volunteer Infantry suffered 82% casualties. Brutal. General Winfield Scott Hancock said about these brave Minnesotans, no soldiers on any field in this or any other country ever displayed grander heroism. There is no more gallant deed recorded in history. Okay, that's pretty heady terms right there. Calvin Coolidge in 1928 went a little further in a speech when he was in Cannon Falls, Minnesota, 1928 on the 4th of July. Calvin Coolidge said that the heroism displayed that day truly gave them the rank. It entitled these gentlemen to the rank of, quote, saviors of their country. Wow. That's pretty impressive. So next time you see a Confederate symbol displayed anywhere on Minnesota, just anywhere in the state, think about that for a minute.
Piss on it.
What's that?
Piss on it.
Yeah, go feel free. As a Southerner, double that one. Piss all over that flag. The next day, the survivors from the 1st Minnesota repelled Pickett's charge, lost another 17 guys, okay? So check this out. This is all leading here. On July 3rd, there was a Virginia battle flag was captured. It was blood-stained, full of bullet holes, and Minnesota grabbed it. Some of these 1st Minnesotans got that flag off the battlefield. Virginia, the state of Virginia, has been asking for the state of Minnesota to return that battle flag for well over 100 years. Like, okay, you following me here?
Yeah.
Of the Virginia battle flag taken off the field at Gettysburg, it's in the possession of the state of Minnesota. And every so often, the state of Virginia goes, hey, we'd like that battle flag back. And it goes back as far as to the year 2000. There was Jesse Ventura, when he was governor, was asked about that flag. He was at the White House and asked about it. And he said, why would I give it back? I mean, we won. We took it. That makes it our heritage. Yeah. Yeah, Jesse. Hell yeah.
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 He got it right occasionally.
I'm going to reiterate that. As a Southerner, please piss on the Confederate flag anytime you see it. I got no time for that nonsense. It's about our culture. No, it's not. Shut up. Just stop, okay?
Yeah.
Relax on that nonsense. Ugh, nothing grinds my gears more than Southerners trying to explain, but it's our heritage. No, it's not. It's stupid. Get over it. You lost.
Yep.
You tried to destroy the country. Don't tell me about patriotism.
Mm-hmm. That's how that works. I know, it gets you fired up. I'll tell you what, when you watch these Gettysburg movies, there have been a couple of big ones made, the big productions we talked about. The first Maine on Little Round Top gets a lot of time in the movie and that sort of thing, as it would. Pickett's Charge. Yeah, but the first Minnesota, what they did, especially at the beginning of the Battle of Gettysburg, is, well, we heard the words. We don't have to define it any more than it was in those eloquent words that you just read. That's, it gives you goosebumps.
Says it all. Did you ever read the book The Killer Angels?
No, I think the Martin Sheen as Robert General Lee, that one.
I never saw the movie.
The movie.
It was Martin Short, I believe.
Was it Martin Short? He probably would have pulled it off.
Martin Short. So looks like we're going to have to run up that hill, hey? The book, The Killer Angels, came out in 1974. I probably read it sometime in the 90s. And it's one of the few books that I read and then immediately, I finished the last page, took 5 minutes, and then started it over. I read it cover to cover immediately back to back. And then I've probably read it 3 times since. It is a Mount Rushmore book of all time in my life about anything, much less. But it's about Gettysburg specifically, and it's just one of the most riveting. I could recommend nothing more highly than that book, The Killer Angels, and you will read about the first Minnesota in that book, of course. Incredible read.
Worth a read. I think I'll pick it up. I bet it's a big one. But yeah, that's what the Gettysburg movie, the big one we all think about, with all the big stars in it. That epic 3.5-hour movie was based on the Killer Angels. But
the funniest thing to me is again, real quick, going back to my Southern brethren who love to say, Robert E. Lee was the best general we had. And I always go, well, if he'd listened to Longstreet, you would have won the war. He wasn't too smart, was he? Longstreet is the guy that knew what was going to happen, but no, General Lee had to say a prayer boy, you want to piss off some old Southern rednecks. I know. Just go into that one. What do you know about Robert E. Lee? You just know what your granddaddy told you once when he was drunk on hooch. Shut up. Get over it.
He lost.
Yeah, no kidding. He lost a lot. Oh, and by the way, he betrayed his country. So there's that whole funny thing, too.
Yeah.
Hey, the band Heart is on the road this summer, or I should say they were. First time Ann and Nancy appearing together in years, and now they have pulled the rest of the tour off the road. Ann Wilson, in a comment on Instagram, said, hey, I recently underwent an operation to have something removed that, as it turns out, was cancerous. All went well. I'm feeling great, but now I'm being advised to undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy. I need to take the rest of the year off. This is merely a pause. I've got much more to sing. Hart says they will be on the road again next year. Respectfully, this is the last public statement I'd like to make on the matter. Ann Wilson, I will just say this. I know everyone agrees. Please get well soon and get back on the road. That's after all those years of Hart not working, to get back out there and have this setback. I'm sure that's really kind of crushing for everybody involved. But we certainly wish Ann Wilson all the best. What an absolute top-notch, top-shelf, all-time icon she is.
Absolutely. So you're saying is her doctor was a magic man who confronted her cancer straight on, and now she just needs a little time alone.
Wow. No. That's pretty good.
No,
I got to admit.
Not really.
That's not good at all.
I had to Google Heart songs.
Ready for a punch.
I was just trying to figure out how you're going to wind Barracuda into that nonsense. I'm glad you resisted the urge.
Tony just flipped me off.
Yeah, I did.
Hey, one last thing about the 4th of July. The very, very popular fireworks show on Lake Minnetonka. It's not going to happen on the 4th of July. It's going to happen on the 3rd of July. Tonight, the Excelsior Lake Minnetonka Chamber of Commerce has decided, after careful consideration, they're going to avoid the potential of a rainout for the 4th. So fireworks tonight. I believe that's also the case in Anoka. Several other big fireworks shows going up on the schedule to tonight to avoid tomorrow's rain. So if you're planning to check out a fireworks show for tomorrow, look into it and see if it is not in fact happening tonight rather than tomorrow.
I'll just add to that because I read about it this morning. A big one on the south side is Canterbury Parks. All the towns around there. We used to gather like 2 miles away and sit up on a hill and watch that one. That one has been rescheduled for tonight. Going to be a beautiful, perfect night for it. Tomorrow, well, the forecast will have to change to get a good night. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for that. Let's look back. July 3rd, 1939, at the World's Fair, Joe Sprints, a minor league catcher, is going to attempt to catch a baseball dropped from a blimp sailing overhead at 800 feet off the ground. That ball is going to be moving pretty quick. So here's how it went. Joe Sprints standing on the field, glove in hand. The first ball doesn't come anywhere near him, nor the second. First 4 balls, the wind gets them. They're gone. Number 5, however, comes straight down the pike, right at Joe Sprints. He holds his glove up. The ball hits him, smacking the glove. A little faster than he was expecting. Didn't tense his muscles quite enough. His glove then is carried with the momentum of that ball right into his own face. Broken nose, a broken jaw, and 5 teeth knocked out of his mouth. And, of course, thankfully, at least for the moment, knocked unconscious. Worst part is he lost the ball. He dropped it as he fell to the ground in a blackout. So didn't even get credit for the record of the highest ball caught.
He needed the catcher's mitt. So we know the ball was going 120 miles an hour. That's terminal velocity. It would have gotten there in that period of time. But what were they using for mitts back there in the what'd you say, 20s?
They would use house cats. They would just grab a house cat. This was, I believe it was a Maine Coon, so he thought it would be big enough, but not quite enough. Yeah. I'm sorry, I cracked myself up with that one.
That's funny.
We all do what we can.
Hey, thanks for listening to the KQ Morning Show podcast, sponsored by Devani's Pizza and Hot Hoagies. We'll be back with fresh episodes on Monday, July 8th. Enjoy the long weekend.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.